And those of you who were on the Retuning Your Firm call last month will have seen the first half of this presentation. There was kind of so much to cover that we had to have a reprise. So I'm just going to share with you, if this will work. Some slides. So here we go. So just a quick reminder before we dive in that this is the findings of the latest strategy and marketing tracker. So we have CMOs and strategy leads for a range of professional firms on the panel, giving us insights around what's up top of their agenda. The research was undertaken during May. And last time I gave you some of the headlines around the kind of broad market trends. What I'm going to do now is dive into some of the themes that we didn't have a chance to cover last month. So let's have a quick look to start with on some of the headlines thematically. So there's three areas that I'm going to talk about briefly today. So one is innovation. And I think across all of these three headlines, we're seeing some interesting tensions emerge. So in the innovation sphere, what we're seeing is that half of those who responded identify their firm as having a strong culture of innovation. But actually, when we asked about some of the kind of infrastructure, innovation kind of building blocks, if you like, that support that culture, many reported, or a lot fewer reported having those in place today. So I think a tension there between, the firm having a broad culture of innovation, but actually, is it really investing in the right things to make that happen? Our second theme was around learning. And again, I think a kind of tension here that many firms are prioritizing learning. They're looking at kind of informal ways to support learning and development across the firm. But when asked whether that was an integral part of how they actually measured the firm's overall performance, only a third said that that was today. So again, a kind of recognition there that learning is important, but actually, is it feeding into how we measure the overall performance of the firm? And then the third big theme was around sustainability. And again, I think some interesting tensions emerging here. Firms investing and committed to ideas of social mobility, well-being, etc. But actually, when we drill down into that and whether people are factoring in sustainability criteria into things like client selection, things like talent recruitment or even performance management, far fewer are actually doing that today. So some headlines there, and I'll take you through some numbers that support that in a moment. Just a quick recap on what we explored in May, first of all. So you may remember, if you're on the May call, that in the tracker survey, we asked about four themes. So there's three that I just mentioned: innovation, sustainability, and training, as well as AI. We did a deep dive into AI in May. So if you missed that, do go back and rewatch that video. But across each of these four themes, the respondents to the tracker were asked a range of questions. First off, how important that was for their growth strategy. And you can see there the numbers suggesting that in most cases, these things are integral, not just to good business practice, but actually to firm growth. AI is slightly behind there, but that's obviously something which has been really accelerating in recent months. We then asked to what extent firms say that their clients expect them to deploy this in their interactions. And again, large percentages here, close to or upwards of 90% across the board. Apart from AI, we're only seeing about half at the moment. See that as an expectation. And then an interesting piece around productivity. So again, AI, innovation, training, big drivers of firm productivity. We also asked the strategy and marketing leaders themselves around their own role for them and their function in leading or supporting these agendas. So first off, we asked about to what extent they had a market leading approach, or they thought they did. And again, I think some interesting pieces here. Most of these averages hitting somewhere between the kind of 4.5 to 6 on a 10-point scale. So to me, suggesting that firms see themselves probably somewhere amongst the pack, not leading, not falling behind, but very much kind of in the middle somewhere. And then, as I said, we asked people about to what extent they are either collaborating or leading as marketing and strategy leads on these various agendas in their firm. And again, for the most part, a majority are actively involved across AI, innovation, sustainability, and training. But you can see sustainability is the one where we've got the biggest proportion, around a quarter, saying that they actually lead that agenda as CMOs or strategy leads. So let's take a bit of a deeper dive into those three themes in the time that we've got. So this will be a quick canter through, but we can, I think, reflect on some of these with our other panelists today as well. So first up, innovation. So as I said, we can see here that in terms of where firms are at today, just under half think that they or feel like they've got a strong culture of innovation. It's something that's kind of brought up in client conversations. But when we dig down, we look further down this chart, you can see that the numbers start to drop. So having things like clear budgets for innovation, documented innovation strategies, etc., the numbers are really dropping here to less than a third. So again, what that suggests to me is that the intent there, but is that backed up with a clear organizational infrastructure to deliver? We also ask people not just what they've got in place today, but what they're also likely to implement in future. And I thought what was quite interesting here is if we look at the very bottom of the chart, innovation practices that enable existing knowledge to be accessed, really big focus on that for the rest of the year, the next 6 months. Again, I think an interesting one, for professional services being such knowledge-focused businesses, that really looking at the innovation agenda to support that. If we move on to training then, as I said, I think what's interesting here is that for around 3/4, informal learning is a big part of their overall learning ecosystem. It's something that they say is encouraged and recognised, as well and as alongside formal learning. If we look at some of these other areas, you'll see things like data and analytics. Actually, very few at the moment are doing that in relation to their learning agenda. So actually, incorporating an understanding of the impact, who's getting involved, measuring that outcome. But if we switch and have a look at the focus for the rest of the year, you can see again at the bottom of the chart that that's an area that we're expecting, or respondents expect to be spending more time and attention throughout the rest of the year. I think on this broad idea of measuring firm performance through the lens of training and development, again, we can see that's an interesting area where we're seeing a bit of an uptick in perhaps thinking through ways that could be incorporated into, for example, overall balanced scorecard on firm performance, 20%, saying that's something that they're looking at for the rest of this year. And then if I switch tack to sustainability, again, you can see here a real big focus at the top. All of those respondents who actually took part say that their firm's got health and wellbeing programs in place today. Many, around 80%, have got projects where they're supporting local community initiatives, social mobility, apprenticeships. I think these things have been fairly common practice for quite a while now. Firms, really being seen to be good employers that have a great impact, not just on their employees, but the wider community and stakeholders that they engage with. Pro bono work common, 2/3 say that they're doing that at the moment. Measuring carbon footprint, over 70% doing that as well. If we then switch and have a look at where firms are focusing for the rest of the year, again, I think some interesting numbers here. One certainly is around sustainability reporting. So those that aren't doing that today, big focus on getting better and smarter at kind of reporting on that. I think that's largely driven by procurement processes, clients or professional firms expecting to see more there as part of pitches and bid processes. But also looking at sustainability around things like client listening, involving that in conversations with clients, and more starting to look at it as a criteria to assess client fit, thinking about it in the context of performance appraisals or talent acquisition and development. So lots of interesting things emerging from our tracker. That's just a quick canter through, but I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to hear the panelists reflect on that as I hand back to Rosemary.